Gather round, my boys and ghouls. No, I'm sorry. Uh, so I saw talks with Burger King in my comments. All those talks about fucking Burger King in my comments. And I was actually thinking about Burger King last night because I know you guys like when I tell stories. Like I'm a fucking grandpa. It's like, tell us some more stories, Grandpa. Tell us stories about when you were a kid. Well, when I was your age, I was working 3 fucking jobs. And I fought Nam at the same time. No, I'm gonna be. I'm already a bitter old man. I'm gonna be a even more bitter old man if I do manage to make it that long, which I hope I don't. Anyways, but I was thinking about Dollar General. Of course, John, you were because you're always a Dollar General. Also, you noticed the bag right over there. Sam was sleeping in it, or I was trying to get him to sleep in it because he was in here like meow, meow. So I set the bag up and then he just left it. But yeah. So last night I was like, well, my people like when I talk about my jobs, or they like to see me sitting out front of my job and doing a video. So there's a few stories I have from when I was working at Burger King like 3 years ago. Um, so story time, kids. Sit down, have a snack, have a beverage of your choosing. I don't care if it's an alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Doesn't matter to me. Whatever helps. All right, so I think within the first week of me working at Burger King, I was outside sweeping the parking lot and I found a hypodermic needle. So obviously I had to pick it up because I didn't know if we were allowed to just throw it in trash cans, or I didn't know if there was a certain receptacle we had to put it in because it was like it had a cap on it and you could tell it was used because it was bent. Um, you're like, well, maybe someone just ran over it. No, if it was like it was only about this big, so if someone ran over it, the whole thing would have been smashed, not just the needle being bent. So, so I had to pick it up. Of course, I just kind of held it near the plunger, and I bring it into the back. I'm like, what do I do with this? They're like, what is it? It's a needle. They're like, oh my god, where'd you find that? I'm like, out in the parking lot. So they basically had me stick it in the garbage like face down, so that way the needle pointed down. They had me like put like stuff on top of it, so that way in case someone pushed it down, it wouldn't just. Right? I think we threw a little bit of cardboard in there, some paper towels and rags and stuff like that that had to be thrown away. But yeah, first week or so, hypodermic needle in the parking lot, in the butt, with no lube. No, so the second one was experiencing some good old fashioned Southern racisms. So I was in the parking lot as per usual, and I come across these 2 fine gentlemen sitting in a car. They're like doing this to each other. I'm kidding, they really weren't. That would have been funny though. Actually, funny story. When I was living in New Jersey with my dad, we went to Taco Bell, and there were 2 dudes doing it with each other in the bathroom. I tried to go to the bathroom. They're like, "Oh shit!" And then they were young, but yeah, there were 2 guys fucking in the bathroom at Taco Bell. Um, but yeah, there were 2 fine, very fine gentlemen on both sides of the car, and I was sweeping up near the car because there was a lot of cigarettes and stuff like that. They stopped me and they complimented my hair, like, "Wow, that's really nice hair. It's long and looks like it's really healthy." I'm like, "Yeah, it's the Italian. My dad's Italian, so I got like really thick hair, and my mom's just a mixture of a lot of other things, and I got Jew curl going on." As soon as I said Jew, they flipped their shit. They were like, they were yelling for the police, and then they called me a Jew word that rhymes with trigger. Yes, you heard that right. They called me a Jew. Um, so I finished up. I mean, because I really didn't care. So I swept up. I was sweeping, just finished up. I went back inside and I told my manager, he's black. His name's Maurice, and I'm like, outside I just experienced some good old Southern racism. He's like, what do you mean? I said, well, two men outside just called me a Jew, and I said the full word because he's cool with it, especially you're quoting. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's what they said. He's like, that doesn't even make sense. I'm like, well, that's what they called me. And I said, if two guys come in here looking for giving a very vague description of me, don't tell them where I am. Because as these guys were pulling out, they were like, turn around, let me see your face, boy. Um, so I'm like, if they give a very vague description of me, don't tell them where I am. He's like, why would I do that? He was like, what? Like, what does that even mean? Like, that's what they called me. So, the Jew trigger. I told my friend, because I think my friend was the one who picked me up that night, and she's like, people are fucking stupid. She's like, what did they look like? I'm like, they look like the people who would say it. They look like those idiot inbred Southerners that we hear so much about. Frankly, being in North Carolina, you would expect to see more, but there's really not a lot. Like, most of the people here are perfectly fine. There's only a small handful of people who are actually racist. So I don't understand why everyone has such a bad view of the South, like it's some racist capital of the world. It's really not, especially where I am. I mean, there are Black Lives Matter shirts around here that I see and everything like that. Everyone's fine. We respect each other. But yeah. So good old Southern racism, and that was. I think it was a little while after I was there. So I think I've been working there for a couple months. I was there for a year. So I think it was like my first or second month I was there. This happened. And then, are you ready for a spooky, scary story? Because this one doesn't have an explanation. So it was December? I can't remember. It was December and January. Either way, it had just snowed. And I was taking the taxi back then, which really sucked because it was like fucking $40 a day. Yeah, it was like $40 a day almost, because it was almost $20. I think it was like $17 to get me to and from. And it was only like 7 miles, so I don't know why it was that much. But so it just snowed the night before, and I was outside waiting for the taxi to show up. And the first day, I think I was pretty close to the time I was supposed to go in. Usually I went in pretty late, but they were having me come in earlier. I think it was like 4 o'clock or so. I can't remember why I called, but I called them and they said, don't worry about coming in. Because I got there usually like 2-3 hours beforehand. Because, the taxi, you never know with them, so it's best to do it a couple hours beforehand. So I call and they're like, yeah, don't worry about coming in. I'm like, why? It's like, well, because we've been extremely dead today because of the snow. The roads are frosted over and icy. We're leaving soon, so no reason to come in. I said, okay. So the next day, I tried calling, same thing, pretty early on. I think I called at 1 o'clock or so. I didn't get an answer. I'm like, okay, let me just give him a little bit of time. And I kept calling, and I was calling all the way till about 5 o'clock. I got no fucking answer. I'm like, are they really busy? Are they even there right now? Because sometimes they don't even answer the phones. When I'm there were plenty of times when I was working, no one would answer the damn phone. So I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if they were there. They just, maybe the phone was somewhere and they didn't know where it was. They're not paying attention or whatever. So I kept calling. Like I said, no answer, no answer, no answer. At 5:30, I called, and the timer started. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, hello? And no answer. There was nothing on that other side except darkness. So I just kind of gave it a second. I'm like, maybe they picked up and then they kind of like did that because they were maybe talking to someone or something like that. I'm like, oh, hello, hello. Oh, hey. So I just kept saying hello and nothing. It was just silence. And it was kind of creepy because I was honestly expecting to hear something on the other side. Like, I don't know, heavy breathing or something. So I'm like, okay, maybe something's wrong with the phone. I hung up. I called back immediately after. No answer at all. Called back again. No answer at all. Called back again. No answer at all. Now you're like, what's so scary about that? Well, the next day I go to work and I was like, hey, Maurice, was anyone here last night? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I was calling. I called it like, God knows how many times. He's like, no, we all left it around 2. I'm like, did anyone come back? He's like, not that I know of. I'm like, well, I called at like 5:30 and someone picked up. He's like, well, who was it? I'm like, I don't know. No one was speaking. I picked up. The timer started and he's like, oh, that's pretty creepy. I'm like, you're pretty sure no one? He's like, yeah, everyone left. Everyone left at 1 o'clock, and then the managers and everyone's left around 1:30, 2 o'clock. And they say, oh, maybe the phone fell off of the base. I'm like, well, how would that answer it? How would that answer the call? Because I hung up and I called back and it went back to ringing nonstop. So how would that work? And then someone had like, oh yeah, ours is connected to like other Burger Kings. Like, first off, that makes no fucking sense. 2, even if it was connected to another Burger King's freaking phone, why wouldn't anyone answer? So, yeah, called at 5:30. Someone picked up, and no answer at all. And so that was a spooky, scary skeleton story. And then finally, I think we almost got caught in a fucking stick up or something. We were finishing up, and my Maurice was giving me a ride home, and I was waiting in the play area because his car was like right there, and he was locking everything up and shutting everything off, and there was this car, and it kept going around and around and around the restaurant. It parked in the back and just sat there, and then it pulled up to the front. I'm like, dude, there's like a car going around the restaurant. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, there's been a car. It's just been going around. I think it's in by the back door right now. He's like, what's it look like? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, are you sure it just didn't pull out? I'm like, no, it's been driving around the fucking restaurant. So then we see it pull up by the side of the restaurant by one of the side doors. Same thing, pulls up, stops. And then after about 5 minutes, it goes around to the main entrance, stops. And then it went around to the back entrance, stopped. He's like, it looks like they're, sizing the place up by stopping at all the entrances. So Maurice called the police. They came over. It took them a little while, but the people finally drove off, and the cop came over and took a statement from us, It's like, well, what were they doing? It's like, we don't know. They were just driving around and stopping at all the entrances. Obviously, that's common when they plan on either breaking in or something like that. So he took our statement and he said, well, do you know which way they went off to? It's like, yeah, they pulled out and they went that way. And they're like, how long ago was it? I'm like, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Because they were pretty much there almost to the very last second. So the cop figured, you know, he might be able to find them or something like that. Because there's people are out there like that at that time of night. They're fucking stupid and they're probably doing something else. So the cop was pretty confident he could catch whoever it was. And we never got a follow up, obviously. Well, I mean, even if Maurice did, he wouldn't have said anything to me, probably. But yeah, there was just a car driving around the restaurant, stopping at the entrances. I mean, and it's not hard to think of who was inside that car. I mean, we really only have two kinds of people around here. I mean, it's not exactly super diverse here. It was either rednecks or nah, me. It was one of two people. So it's either fucking rednecks or the black people. They usually come on that side of town when they start doing shit like that. So, I mean, there's an entire street where all you hear is gunfire all the fucking time. So, it's not a racist thing. It's just how they are here. The street they lived on, or the street that I used to have to walk on, is called Amherst. And I was getting stopped all the fucking time by black guys. Like, yo, man, you got $5? Got a cigarette? It's like, no. And when they ask for money, it's like, I work in Ingalls. How much money do you think I'm making? It's like, I'm walking to work. If I had money, do you really think I'd be walking to work? So, but it's constant gunfire over there. And then when the people I worked with found out I was walking through Amherst, they're like, John, if you ever need a ride home at night, let me know. Because that's how dangerous it was. They did not want me walking through that part of the neighborhood because I was likely to get shot. And it was so bad. I lived quite a while, not quite a while, but I mean, from driving distance, I was 2-3 minutes away, I think. And from where I was living, you could hear the gunshots. So it was those kinds of people who were doing it. So it's not a racist thing. It's just who the people were. So when around here, when we have stupid shit happening, it's either, hoo yeah, let's play this out real good, or, meh. So, but yeah, they were sizing up the place, I guess. Luckily, we were there, because I think they finally realized that we were there, because Maurice's car was right there in the parking lot. So I think they were waiting for us to leave, but I guess they thought we were taking too long, and they probably realized that we had called the police. So they took off like the fucking cowards they were, just to do it to somewhere else. Go figure, I'm sure. But anyways, yeah, so that was story time with John, with Papa John. I mean, Daddy John. I mean, Master John. Something John, I don't care. Just, I prefer God or Master. No. Now that I'm getting to grow the beard back, I can go back to being Jesus. I'm Jesus. Anyways, yeah, story time. If you guys have anything else you want to hear me talk about, go ahead and let me know. But other than that, I think I am done, because I'm tired of looking at all of you. Seriously. Leave. Go. You're still here? Go home. Go converse with your family members. Go jerk off. Go paint a picture of you jerking off or something. I don't know. Just something. Go. Bye, guys.